Welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about Tokyo Xtreme Racer, a racing series I wasn't familiar with until recently. Now, the amount of games I'm going to be looking at today isn't going to be the entirety of the Tokyo Xtreme Racer series. I'm going to be looking at 10 games specifically, which is most of the series, don't get me wrong. And what else is there to say? Let's dive right into this racing game series. You know, I like racing games personally, so when I heard that this series existed, which was more about kind of like straight racing in comparison to the drifting and other types of racing games, I was interested. So this series is pretty much entirely, except for one game that I'm going to be covering, developed by a developer known as Genki, the same developer that did Kengo Master of Bushido, or Kengo series as a whole. There isn't really any other series I can think of that really stands out that they've developed. So yeah, and most of the games were published by Crave Entertainment in the West, with the exception of the final game, which was published by Ubisoft. So yeah. Anyway, let's dive right in, shall we? The very first game in this series was released on the Super Famicom and was called Drift King Shutoku Battle 94, because in Japan this series is generally known as the Shutoku Battle series. And yeah, so you go through this like story thing about, you know, garage or something or other, I don't know, but some kind of story. And then you go into the racing, and I do think the racing's very interesting for the Super Nintendo. There's quite a few racing games on the Super Nintendo, but this one's very interesting solely because you have this weird split perspective. So the actual real perspective is the bottom screen, where you're actually able to see your car and be able to judge and control your car accordingly, whereas the top screen shows like cinematic shots of your car as it goes around the racetrack. And I find that very, very interesting. That's kind of cool, and I think it's a really interesting feature to have, and I haven't personally seen such a feature before in a racing game, at least for the Super Nintendo. Even nowadays, you know, it's like watching the replay in real time. But you can get distracted a little bit while racing because of this screen, because you'll be looking above to see how cool the shot is, and then you can overshoot it just like there. But the controls are fine, generally speaking. For some reason, every now and then your car locks up at a corner and you just have no control over it whatsoever. I don't really get that. It reminds me of the was it overdrive or overspin or whatever the hell that system was called in the Shutoku series. It kind of reminds me of that, where your car just suddenly locks out. Very strange mechanic to have in a racing game, if I be completely honest. But it seems like something similar is here. So, but besides that point, the racing is pretty decent. You know, the controls are fine, they're very responsive, and yeah, it seems okay for what it is. I haven't really got much else to say besides that. It's okay. It's a fine racing game. Next up, we have the sequel. That's Drift King Shutoku Battle 2 for the Super Famicom, and it's more of the same, really. You know, I find that the characters' facial expressions aren't as detailed as they were in the first game, but it's pretty much the same. You know, you're in this workshop, garage, whatever you want to be, and you work together, like souping up your car so you can do races and shit. Basically, that's the game. Like I said, the controls, the racing, it's just pretty much the same. It's very similar. It even has the same issue where the car locks up. It even has that issue. For a while when I was racing, I didn't think it had the issue, and then suddenly it did it out of nowhere. So yeah, the car still locks up. The drifting could be a little bit better, but like that can be said about the previous game as well, as you saw that corner there. There you go. See that there? That there? Why my car's doing that suddenly? That's the car locking up. It does that in the first game as well. You can press the D-pad as much as you want. You can do whatever you want. The car will not respond to any button inputs you are doing on the controller. It will just keep going forward at a slow pace, not turning, not doing anything. But there's no on-screen. There's nothing on. It's not like Shutoku, where it gives you like an on-screen prompt telling you when that's going to happen. It just happens randomly. And because of that reason, I can't really recommend this game. Like I said, as a racing game, the controls are still, again, the controls are fine, except for when that happens. As a racing game, it's pretty decent. It's just that mechanical features, whatever the hell that is, really does not belong in the game and shouldn't be there. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. Besides that, it's the same as the first game. It's just a semi-decent racing game. You still have the same panoramic kind of cinematic view above as well, which is kind of nice. So, yeah. Next up is the first release for the Tokyo Xtreme Racer series on the PlayStation 1, completely titled under a different title, because it hasn't quite recognized that title yet. Tokyo Highway Battle. And yeah, it's look at what I'm driving. Funny. So yeah, it's basically an extension of the Super Famicom games, just in 3D really. You can drive around a racetrack. The racetracks are, it's kind of actually a little bit, it's a bit strange, because I feel like the first like 3 games tend to adopt this racetrack kind of gameplay where you got laps and shit. Whereas when it actually adopts the Tokyo Xtreme Racer moniker, it becomes a completely different game. It's kind of just a bit strange, you know. And by the way, you know, the Tokyo Xtreme Racer thing's owned by Crave, I'm pretty sure. So, you know, they're the ones that came up with that title. This is before Crave got the license to this series. You know, this game is known as Shutoku Battle Drift King in Japan, so it is still part of the Shutoku Battle series. And yeah, it's a pretty decent game. It controls fairly well. The drifting here and there the drifting's fine. I think the drifting in this game is fine. I think it's more my skill level with the drifting's not very good. But, you know, towards the end of like me playing this game, I got better at the drifting. So it's just practice makes perfect, like with anything. I think, you know, once you got the hang of it, you'd be drifting around these corners with ease, and it would be like so much fun. But yeah, I think Tokyo Highway Battle's pretty good. The controls are fine, you know. You don't have that bullshit before in the Super Famicom games where your car locks up and stops moving. You don't have that in here. You know, it's a more traditional racing game. You don't have you don't have the panoramic view as you're racing, but I don't see an issue with that. You still have like a replay you can watch when you finish the race. So yeah, pretty decent racing game. I'd definitely recommend this one to people to give a try. And here we have finally the very first Tokyo Xtreme Racer for the Sega Dreamcast. And what a pleasure it is to play this game. This game is completely different to any kind of racing game I've played before. So basically you have this like open city to basically drive around in. Yeah, it's just the highways, but still you can drive around this open city, as you can see it from the mini-map on the left there. And yeah, my driving's not great. That's my fault. I'm getting used to the controls if you see me bouncing about. At least it's quite forgiving about that. You know, you just kind of bounce off the thing. It's a bit strange, but still. As you can see, smashing into a car isn't really an issue either. But yeah, you have these long, winding highways you can race down. And basically how the game goes, it has a quest mode where basically you'll have people you're driving around with cars as well, and you just go up behind them, flashing with your headlights to initiate a race. And then after that, you race for a certain amount of time, and basically, once you get ahead and far enough, you win. That was a draw because I went the wrong way, for example. So yeah, you see at the top there as you're racing, as you can see here, you got the SP. Mine's pretty low and the rival's high, but at the moment I'm ahead of my rival and his SP's going down. When the SP reaches 0, you've officially won the race. So it's a very interesting system. I do like it. It's very different, and this has got to be one of the nicest looking racing games for the Sega Dreamcast. If I be honest, look how lovely this looks. You know, if I could have a remaster of any game, I would have a remaster of probably one of the Dreamcast games, preferably number 2, but we'll get to that. But yeah, it's just a nice racing game. The controls are very responsive. This one isn't about drifting. There's no real drifting. I think you can drift a little bit, but it's not the intended way to race, I don't think. So it is what it is. But at the same time, most of the highways are straights. There isn't that many turns. So, and even where there is turns, I think they intend for you to slow down a little bit anyway. So yeah, a very good racing game. I'll definitely recommend anyone who's got a Sega Dreamcast to get it. And you know, at the time of me recording this video, which is quite in advance, I do hope that one of these Tokyo Xtreme Racer games are included in this Sega Dreamcast Mini, because there's rumors about that going around. I do hope that they include one of these Tokyo Xtreme Racer games in there, because I'll be very tempted to get a Sega Dreamcast Mini just for that reason, besides a few other games as well. But yeah, very good. Next up, we have Tokyo Xtreme Racer 2, which in my opinion is the best in the series. I love this. Do you know one of the things I love about this game? This car selection screen. Look at this car selection screen. This should be the basis what all racing games should go off. Not just one where it's static and you're just seeing it in like a showroom as it spins around. This, it's on the road, it's racing, it's driving, you can see it. This car selection screen, I love it. I honestly do love this car selection screen. But, without me talking so much about that, the actual game itself is more or less much of the same of Tokyo Xtreme Racer, the first game on the Sega Dreamcast, with slight fixes here and there. The controls seem to feel a little bit more responsive, a little bit better here in this game, and that's why it makes it obviously overall better than the first. Also, I can go on Wagon, which I didn't know if that was a thing I could do, but I could go on Wagon. Been watching Wagon Midnight recently. I didn't finish it because it didn't have that kind of energy that I was kind of expecting it to have. But it was cool to kind of be able to drive on the Wagon, or Wangan. I couldn't keep calling it Wagon. The Wangan in Tokyo Xtreme Racer. It was pretty cool. But yeah, I would say that Tokyo Xtreme Racer 2 is probably, and again, in my opinion, from what I've played of all of them, is the best in the series. There are others that, they got... It's hard to say, really, because most of the games are, generally speaking, just it's more like expansions to the original game. Like, this one is it's pretty much the same map. You got a few fixes here and there, a few different cars, it's still got the quest mode and various other things. But it's very similar to the previous game in that regard. I do hope to see this game on the Sega Dreamcast Mini. If they are doing a Sega Dreamcast Mini, I hope to see this game on there. It's definitely worth being on there. It's a really good game. And actually even has really good music as well. That is the music that you're hearing right now in this video. It's all from Tokyo Xtreme Racer 2. Anyway, let's move on to the next game. Next up, we have Tokyo Xtreme Racer's first entry onto the PlayStation 2, and that being Tokyo Xtreme Racer 0. I don't know why this is called 0. Is it a prequel? No, it was called Shutoku Battle 0 in Japan, so I don't know. But look at this car selection screen. I just want to make a point. Here. Look at this car selection screen. Wasted opportunity. Wasted opportunity. Yeah, okay, you do have quite a few cars you can pick from, whereas in the previous game it looks like you didn't have as many. You also have a class system now in the game, which the previous game, if I recall, didn't have. So you can pick a different car. Pick different classes of car. I ended up picking this stupid looking car. I don't know why I picked it. It's a heap of shit. But generally speaking, it's more of the same, really. It really is more of the same. As you can see, I'm coming up here. If you look at the mini-map, I'm actually very close to coming up to Wangan again. There you go, going back on to Wangan. But yeah, I haven't really got much to say about this game. The music's fine-ish, kind of. It's okay for what it is. I couldn't win any races simply because the car I picked was a heap of dog shit. I shouldn't have picked this car. I just picked it for the laugh factor more than anything. But it's got all the same modes as the previous two games, Tokyo Xtreme Racer. You got a quest mode, you've got the free run, you've got the various different, you've got the time attack, and so all the same modes are there. It just feels very similar, and this is the kind of the curse you end up going under with the Tokyo Xtreme Racer series. Is the more of the games you play, especially with me, I played them in quick succession. You come to realize that they're all very, very similar to each other. Is not really much different. Like here in Tokyo Xtreme Racer 0, we're on the same kind of map. There might be a slightly different variation here and there, but it's not much. There isn't much of a variation. It's okay. Don't get me wrong, but I still prefer the previous game really. Just because realistically, it's just a nicer. It's not even. I wouldn't even say it's a nicer looking game in comparison to the previous game. I wouldn't even say that actually. The previous game looks better in my opinion. And then yeah, previous game looked better in my opinion. So with this game, it's kind of a little bit of a downgrade, kind of. Just but it's very similar to the previous game. So yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Next up, we have a spin-off of the Tokyo Xtreme Racer series known as Kaido Racer, or Kaido Battle. I think it was Kaido Battle. Yeah, Kaido Battle in Japan, but released in the West as Tokyo Xtreme Racer Drift. Now, excuse those lines. I did get rid of them, as you can see. I did get rid of them. It was just an issue with the emulator. I had to mess around a few things, a few settings, and then it was fine. So this one's more about drifting. It's more based around drifting than the previous games, and you're actually drifting around mountain passes in this game. So that's pretty cool. The only issue is that the controls, through some way, shape, or form, I have no clue how they managed to do this, considering, again, it's Genki, the same developer. How the hell they fucked up the controls? The controls are terrible. The controls are atrocious. Now, I think after a while you may get used to the drifting, but that doesn't stop the turning and the actual acceleration being janky as fuck. It is really, really surprising, seeing as we just had, and keep in mind, in Japan, this game came out at the same year, 2003, even though this game came out in the West in 2006, I believe, as Tokyo Xtreme Racer 0. Actually, no, wait a second. No, Tokyo Xtreme Racer 0 came out in 2001. I'm thinking Tokyo Xtreme Racer 3. Tokyo Xtreme Racer 3 came out in 2003. You got this game that came out in 2003 as well. 0 came out before. And it's just, I don't understand how the controls can be so terrible. They are really, really bad. Now, I've played a few Initial D games in my time, and the fucking turning controls are better in those games. Those games are more or less based around drifting, and that's what this game is as well. This game is based around drifting, and yet it fails immensely in doing so. Maybe you need a bit of practice, but nothing's going to stop the turning and the acceleration being absolutely janky pieces of shit. Nothing's going to fix that. Nothing's going to stop that. So, I don't know. I didn't like this. I didn't play much of it. I didn't really like Tokyo Xtreme Racer Drift. It just felt like a massive step backwards in terms of controls and functionality. I don't know why. It's just, yeah. Maybe Drift 2 was better, because there was a Drift 2, so maybe that was better. But I'm not looking at that game in this video. Next up, we have Tokyo Xtreme Racer 3. And I would also like to mention once again that this game came out in the same year as Tokyo Xtreme Racer Drift. Well, in Japan. Came out the same year, same developer. And yet this game is far superior, and the controls are pretty much identical to Tokyo Xtreme Racer 0. I don't know what happened exactly. I don't know what happened with the controls there, but whatever, I guess. So yeah, the controls for this game are pretty much identical to 0. I couldn't really tell if there was any. You could see me. I was purposely wiggling the car around a little bit just to try and fuck myself over, and it wasn't working. So like I said, the controls are all pretty on point here. But yeah, it just really surprised me, going from Tokyo Xtreme Racer Drift back to this, and I was like, what? How are the controls okay here? The game came out in the same fucking year. It came out actually after Tokyo Xtreme Racer Drift, but not too long after. It was really, really strange. The bonus thing about this game has more tracks you can go around. You can actually go around a few different cities, if I remember correctly. So that's pretty cool. There's a lot of cars to be able to pick from. As you can see, I've upgraded. I've got another car. I'm going up against a rival race. I'm pretty sure he's driving the same car as me, actually. But yeah, it's pretty much just like 0. And this game was actually released in Japan as Shutoku Battle 01. So it's actually meant to be a sequel to 0. So yeah, I don't know. Well, I don't know why they didn't call this 02 or something, or 01 or something like that in America. Maybe it didn't fit. But yeah, I haven't really got much to say. See, the thing is, I keep rambling on and on, mainly because I haven't really got much to say about the game. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. There isn't not much change. It looks prettier, sure. I still like the graphical style of the first two games on the Sega Dreamcast, but it looks nice. Even on the emulator, it looks nice. And it's functional and it plays well. What else is there to say? The music is fine. It's still, I prefer the music in Extreme Racer 2. But yeah, it's fine for what it is. You know, there's even if there isn't, in my opinion, that much change. Say hello to the strangest game out of this series, Tokyo Xtreme Racer Advance, the Western exclusive Tokyo Xtreme Racer game. It's the only Tokyo Xtreme Racer game that was exclusive to the West and wasn't made by Genki as far as I know. This was developed by David A. Palmer Productions, and yeah, it's basically Tokyo Xtreme Racer on the Game Boy Advance, if you could call it that. It's... yeah, as a racing game, it's fine, I guess, for the Game Boy Advance. It works, the controls are responsive. Again, it's a racing game on the Game Boy Advance. It looks okay, I guess, for the Game Boy Advance. Yeah, I haven't really got much to say about this one, because I didn't play it for very long, but it's okay. It's functional as a racing game, and it has the same kind of gameplay that Tokyo Xtreme Racer has. So I haven't really got an issue with this game. It's not too bad, in my opinion. Look at him just smash into that car that fucked right up. Fucked right up. Fucked up so badly, now I'm going to win. Yeah, like I said, it's okay. It's a bit of a strange addition, really. I don't know why Crave decided to fund a portable version of Tokyo Xtreme Racer exclusively for the Game Boy Advance, and why didn't they even bother releasing it in Japan? I don't know. But yeah, it's okay. It's an okay racing game for the Game Boy Advance, but I wouldn't personally play it again, if I be honest. And here we have the final game, Import Tuner Challenge, called as such simply because it isn't published by Crave, who probably were the ones who owned the Tokyo Xtreme Racer IP name. Instead, this game was published by Ubisoft, and obviously it was named Import Tuner Challenge, which is fair enough. Now, this game is really good. I really like this game. It controls fairly well, even though you see me failing there. I'm just getting the hang of it. The controls are quite different to the previous game. The previous games were way more responsive. They're way more tight, and I have no issue with that. It just means I gotta get used to them all over again, which isn't an issue because at the end of the day, this is a kind of the same, kind of a different game. So, but yes, you have 3 cities you can play in. I think it was Tokyo, Nagua, and Osaka you can play in, which is pretty cool. And yeah, it feels really nice. There's definitely compared to the other games, this game really does have a feeling of speed as you're going down the highway. It's really, really nice. And I picked this car and decided to put the number plate as Satan69. I also upgraded the car as well, which will appear on the screen in a minute or two. Yeah, this is probably my second favorite. If I be completely honest with you, you know, if I compare this, my favorite is still Tokyo Xtreme Racer 2, but this is easily my second favorite Tokyo Xtreme Racer game. This is a really, really good game, and it's pretty much the same across the board. Same quest mode, same free run, same one. You know, when you go into the quest mode, you drive around. When you see the little blimps on the mini map, they're rivals you can go up against. You go up behind them, flash your headlights, and it initiates a race. Pretty much the same as all the other games. But yeah, it's really good. The controls are really nice. Like I said, the sense of speed, the graphics, all look really nice for a 2006 Xbox 360 game. That's what you got to remember. It was a 2006 Xbox 360 game. Maybe that's the reason why this series kind of died, because the last game was on the Xbox 360. Released in Japan as Shutoku Battle X. Maybe that's why. But yeah, I would love to see this game come back, if I'm being completely honest. And it kind of surprises me that Crave wasn't the ones who published this game. Like, it really is a surprise, because Crave kept publishing Tokyo Xtreme Racer games until 2007. The final Tokyo Xtreme Racer game they released was in 2007, and that being Tokyo Xtreme Racer Drift 2. So, a year after this game came out, because this game came out in Japan in 2006, but also came out in both America and Europe in 2006. To think that a year later, Crave was still releasing them. And I don't know why Crave didn't get the license for this. I don't know. Maybe Ubisoft showed interest, and Ubisoft's a bigger publisher than Crave. I don't really know. But, yeah. Either way, I would still love to see one of these games come back. If any of the Tokyo Xtreme Racer games actually got a re-release or a remaster and got released on PC, Steam, Xbox One, PS4, or whatever, probably Import Tuna Challenge would be the easiest to do. It looks really pretty, it looks really nice, and it plays really, really well. So yeah, really good game. So there we go. There's all the Tokyo Xtreme Racer games I'm going to be looking at. Now, don't get me wrong. At some point in the future, maybe part of PlayStation 2 randoms or something, I might have a look at the other Tokyo Xtreme Racer games because there's still a few. There's still the 2 PlayStation 1 exclusive Shutoku battle games that were, well, again, released exclusively in Japan. There's Tokyo Xtreme Racer Drift 2. There's Kaido Racer, and I wouldn't mind even having a look at Street Supremacy, which is the Tokyo Xtreme Racer game on the PSP. But yeah, across this series, I actually thoroughly enjoyed playing most of the games. You know, even though each game kind of felt like just more of an extension of the previous game, it didn't really feel like it would bring in particularly anything new to the table. It was just more of a refined formula. And yeah, I got no issue with that. It's fine. You know, Import Tuna Challenge is a really good racing game. I'll definitely say give it a go if you've got a 360 and you're willing to spare some cash. The game cost me £6. That's pretty reasonable, I think, for the game that you get. And yeah, definitely have a go on Tokyo Xtreme Racer 2, because that's also a very, very good, cool game, a very, very good game as well. But yeah, anyway, I've been Bio. I hope you've enjoyed me having a look at the Tokyo Xtreme Racer series, and I'll see you in the next video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. See you later.